Sure.
Amazing. Okay. So welcome everybody to our event, Latino Leaders in Tech, Stories of Inclusion and Inspiration. This is part 2 of our Latinx Spotlight series. The first one was a couple months ago. And once again, we have an incredibly impressive panel for you today. So while our primary mission is to connect, support, and empower Latina women working in the tech industry, we do recognize that our allies play a crucial role in fostering an inclusive and diverse community. And so today's event is to shine the spotlight on 4 of our Latino allies. And we also have a special treat for you today. Stay till the end. Don't miss your chance to win a beautiful bracelet from Maria Tuca. And I'll share more details on this at the end of the webinar. But let's jump right in. Okay, so let's start by sharing briefly who we are and what we do. So those of you that don't already know, Latinas in Tech is a nonprofit organization with the aim to connect, support, and empower Latina women working in tech. It started as an informal gathering between 2 friends, and it grew from there. A couple of happy hours turned into a full-fledged movement. And our co-founders dreamed of a group where Latinas could connect with each other, learn from each other, support one another's professional careers. And the group eventually became large enough that it started hosting meetups in various tech companies in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so that really takes us to where we are today. Our vision is a tech industry where Latinas are well represented throughout all layers of the ecosystem by empowering them to be innovators and thinkers. So our mission is to provide the resources, opportunities, and community that Latinas need to thrive, innovate, and lead in the tech space. And we are focused on empowering and connecting our community through 3 key pillars: professional development, recruiting, and mentorship. And we have a lot of fun along the way. In the past 6 months, we've had the privilege of partnering with some of Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa's tech companies to host events for our community. Here's a few pictures of our past events, and we have more for the rest of November. So this Thursday, pasado mañana, we have an in-person cafecito in Toronto. Then next Wednesday, we have an in-person cafecito in Ottawa. And then next Thursday, we have an in-person event at McGill University in collaboration with McGill's Women Alumni Association and McGill's Latino Alumni Society. So if you're interested, please register if you want to attend. So just circling back a little bit about our growth, Latinas in Tech, as I mentioned before, began in Silicon Valley in 2014 and has since then expanded to 23 chapters globally. The community comprises of more than 27,000 members worldwide, and we represent Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries. And we work at more than 200 of the top tech companies across the world. Our members work at all the top tech companies, including Airbnb, Apple, Asana, Coursera, Salesforce, Workday, you name it, we're represented. And our members represent the entire tech ecosystem. We have software engineers, cybersecurity experts, data scientists, public relation professionals, entrepreneurs, investors, recruiters, and more. And then finally, I actually haven't introduced myself. I'm Diana Soler, born in Colombia, living my best life in Canada, Montreal since 2006. In my full-time role, I'm Director of Product Operations. I've been in the tech space since 2017. I've been a member of Latinas in Tech since it launched in Canada in April of 2020. We all remember what was happening around that time. And I took the role of chapter leader in April of this year. But I'm one of 6 chapter leaders, and we work really hard and really passionately to bring our community together. So here's the 6 Latinas in Tech Canada leaders, and you can see where we're located. Okay, but enough about us. It's time to meet our panel. So welcome, Andres, welcome, Daniel, welcome, Carlos and Roberto. Starting with you, Andres, can each of you please introduce yourselves and share a bit about your background and current role in the tech industry?
Happy to, absolutely. And let me point out that I'm using my Latinas in Tech shirt, so, important. I am a Colombian soul with a Canadian heart. I've been married for 20 years. I've been navigating the landscape of technology for over 9 years, mostly working on fintechs as a project manager and in project management, upskilling teams in project management, focusing on cross-functional leadership. But I also champion the cause of allyship in the tech realm. I mentor in Technovation and Hispanotech. I feel very strongly about the benefits of inclusivity and bridging gaps and fostering diverse talent. I'll speak a little bit more about the nonprofits, but they feel a very strong, close part of my heart. At a personal level, I love obstacle races and love traveling. I believe there are two types of people: the people that lives to eat and the people that eats to live. And I definitely live to eat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Daniel, moving on to you.
Okay. Daniel Capriles. I am from Venezuela. So I've been in Canada for the last 11 or 12 years. It's been a wonderful experience and opportunity to grow and to learn many, many things. My technical background is an electronic engineer, and I worked briefly in engineering until like a friend, got me a job in consulting. I started working as data analyst, and I always was doing a role which I was not ready for. I was, like if I would apply or if I would think like this is the role that I want, I would think to myself, no, I cannot do this. But I was invited to somebody with, somebody was like, hey, Daniel, because they know me. And I started learning a lot about data science, analytics, etc. And then finally, that was the role that I did. And now I am director of advanced analytics and AI in BDC. And in the personal, I am a father of two wonderful kids. I also, love travel, sports like soccer, you know, have fun.
Thank you so much, Daniel. So nice to meet you. Carlos, moving on to you. And by the way, I just enabled the chat function for everybody. So everybody, please feel free to add your comments and questions there.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks, Roberto, Andres, and Daniel for being here. This is amazing. And thanks to all the people that is joining the session. My name is Carlos Chalico. I was born and raised in Mexico and moved to Canada back in 2012. So it's going to be 11 years right now. My background, I went through an IT management program in the university, and it was a coincidence that put me in the path of IT risk and cybersecurity. I have been doing cybersecurity since before it was called cybersecurity in 1986. Right now, I am a partner with EY, the consulting firm specialized in cybersecurity and privacy. I also teach for the University of Toronto. I volunteer for different organizations. And of course, many of them are Latin organizations. And I am amazed on finding Latinas in Tech. I didn't know how large the organization is, and it is impressive. So thank you for letting us be part of this, and congratulations on making this happen. It's great. And I challenge you to find out which my favorite movie is. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you. So nice to meet you, Carlos. Hola, Roberto. On to you.
Hola. My name is Roberto. I'm actually from Brazil, so Spanish is like my fourth language, right, way behind the others. So I don't speak that much Spanish. I arrived in Canada at around 2009. Myself, my wife, and who by then was a small kid of 1 year and a half, and who's now 15, and like being that teenager you all folks can think about. I have a very different, I would say, career when it comes to a very non-linear career, as I want to say. I started out in advertising back in Brazil, and I tried to translate that skill here to Canada. It didn't work. So upon my arrival, actually, I wasn't employed for 2 years because, 2009, it was a big house crisis and no one was employed. You can imagine an immigrant from Brazil. So after being unemployed for 2 years, I ended up starting working in a conference company. And that conference company was looking for someone to produce a conference in Brazil. And I was like, I can do that. I always did that. And that was not necessarily the actual truth, but they ended up hiring me. I stayed there for about 4 years when I transitioned into tech back in 2015. So I was the events marketing manager at Influitive, which is a tech startup here in Toronto, where I'm based off. After that, it was a brief stint of about a year. Someone from Shopify actually got in touch with me and proposed me something that I could not decline. It was a great proposition. So I started becoming a marketing manager at Shopify at around 2016. It stayed there for 4 years, but left as a social impact manager. So I actually ended up working with, my role there was actually a manager for equitable entrepreneurship. It was a mouthful, I can't even say that properly. But it was a great opportunity for me to start building communities for underrepresented and more challenged Canadians. And that's when I left Shopify to go to Google to do something quite similar, to work with underrepresented Canadians to help them reskill themselves for new jobs in tax with the Google Proof certificates. I stayed at Google for around 2 years and moved to Rogers, where I am right now. At Rogers, I worked with 5G innovation, which is very different from what I was doing before, but still very interesting. When I start looking back in hindsight about what kind of guided me through all of this, is like there was an interwoven community building aspect that really connects all those jobs all together, which kind of, I think in a way, really define who I am. So being a community builder for my entire life, and what I see right now is in a way kind of those skills being translated in many different job opportunities.
Amazing. It's so nice to meet you, Roberto. Thank you again for joining. Thank you to the 4 of you. So we'll now move into the discussion, and so that everybody can see your faces, I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, so let's jump into the first question, and we'll kick things off with you, Roberto. So can you share some of the challenges that you faced as Latino in the tech industry, and how have you overcome them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I could share challenges in 2 different moments. One of them, when I was an employee, that I already gave a little bit of how it went, and at that moment, my biggest challenge was actually on how to actually position myself within an industry that was not really welcoming to immigrants, namely advertising, and I was trying really hard to fit in and to become a Canadian myself, and it was not working, of course, because I wasn't a Canadian back then. I was recently arriving from Brazil. Until I had this meeting with this guy who is a senior, kind of a senior executive nowadays. And the one thing that he told me that really resonated with me was, Roberto, what distinguishes you from the entire industry is that you're not Canadian. So instead of making that your weakness, you should reposition yourself to make your strength. So really start building out who you are, the persona, what you bring to the table, with a lens of being a Brazilian, and how you can think differently about things, how your different background and different contexts can actually add more to what we're going to be doing. And so it goes. And that was like really obvious now that I talk about it. But back then was a big eye opener, because that really allowed me to start leading the conversation that I was having from a different perspective, a different point of view. And then afterwards, when I got employed, I guess the big challenge that I faced as by being a Latino is that kind of me versus we idea. Here in North America, in the US and in Canada as well, people really know how to brag about themselves. They really know how to put themselves in the spotlight. And I guess that ourselves as Latinos, we don't. Like, I guess that idea of familia, of bringing people together with you doesn't allow you to do that. So I had a really hard time pointing out the things that I had done myself or my accomplishments. It was always a team accomplishment. I would always share that with everyone. And I really had to practice and to exercise the muscle to really kind of start shifting that spotlight into me, so that I could see more opportunities when it comes to promotions, more opportunities when it comes to getting new jobs, and so forth. So I think that those are the 2 big challenges that I face as a Latino here in Canada.
Thank you for sharing. We also heard some of that in our first Spotlight series with some of the Latinas that we spoke to. I'll hand the same question over to you, Andres.
I just want to say, Roberto, it was really powerful. It really resonated with me. So thank you for sharing. For me, I would say starting my career. So personally, when I started my career and I came out of university, I wasn't very familiar, nor I believe very strongly on unconscious biases. But then when I would see people that maybe was less qualified than me getting those promotions and getting those roles of influence, and then I would see those chairs that had decision makers, and no one looked like me. None of them looked like me. Then I started wondering, you know what? Maybe there is something beyond what I can control that is influencing these promotions or these opportunities to be taking advantage of someone else and not me. So then what I did is I assessed I'm very pragmatic. My career depends on it. So I assess what were my opportunities, what were my weaknesses, and then I leverage those opportunities to overcome the unconscious bias with a proven track record. So for me, the two tools that became highly powerful for me was education, becoming a subject matter expert on my field, and letting my success speak for itself, as opposed to the handsome, bold person that you see on screen right now. And the other one was networking, right? So, and networking, I don't come from a place where I was meeting people that was giving me opportunities. I was coming from a place that what sort of leader I can bounce ideas from that probably has gone through the same challenges that I'm seeing right now, but was able to overcome them so that they could influence my career towards the right direction and maybe give me a shortcut that I may be not aware of. And I think those were the two most influential variables at the start of my career to overcome that challenge.
Yeah, the topic of investing in your education to combat that lack of confidence sometimes, or that imposter syndrome that we often hear so much about. It's such a powerful tool. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, moving on to the second question. Carlos and Daniel, I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your proudest achievements or moments in your tech career?
You want to start, Carlos, or should I?
You can, Daniel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, I think that, funny enough, hands down, one of my biggest achievement happened before my career started, because it was in the university. I started with a dream of building the first solar car in Venezuela, and I started convincing other students, and then convincing teachers. Then we started finding a sponsorship, and we created a whole organization, just like an entrepreneur, company. And I was leading the team, and we built the first Venezuelan car to compete in Australia. And like, I think that I never done something as amazing as that. And also, everybody working there, it was not paid. So it was about really inspiring people to work on that. And then, well, here, the fact of starting and getting into the technical career in the financial industry, after many people, when you come as an immigrant, said, "Oh no, you're not going to find a job in your country. Just go, start working in a supermarket, or just settle for something." And I said, "No, that's not my story. And there are successful stories, and that's what I'm going to pursue." And I did. And my closest friend also, I gotta say that everybody have a good story in Canada of a good career, because we are good talent and we can do it. And now I'm a director in a company, and also I get invited to conferences. This year was the first Big Data and Analytics Montreal. That was on October, and I was invited as a host. So from all the Latino community, the technical community, a Latino was the person hosting the event. So I was very proud of representing.
Indeed, a very proud moment when I saw you on that stage, Daniel. Thank you for sharing. Carlos, on to you.
Thank you. That's an interesting question. I think what I am most proud of is assembling what I can call, and I know that this will sound subjective, but assembling what I can call the best cybersecurity team, consulting team in Latin America. It was in late 90s when EY in Mexico asked me to go for the challenge of identifying a set of people, a group of people, to assemble this team, and it was amazing. We were working together for a little bit more than 10 years, and of course, distance apart. It was like having the Beatles of cybersecurity. It was amazing. So the way we worked together and the way we were delivering services and talking to audiences and discovering things was cool. It was not only the fact that we created this team in Mexico, but this team in Mexico helped started some other groups within EY outside of the firm. And it felt really good when a couple of years ago I had a chance to go to Mexico to deliver a presentation. I am fortunate enough to constantly go there for that. And the lady that was introducing me to the audience said, for those of you that don't know Carlos Chalico, because he has been in Canada for a little bit more than 10 years, he was the founder of the cybersecurity group in Mexico. And And every single member of the group that is right now just working for different companies and doing different stuff on their own, all of them have done great. So I think that's what I feel more proud of, that the team that we assembled, the things we did together, and how all of those different actors are now succeeding, replicating the same thing in other places, like I am trying to do now in Canada. Yeah.
It sounds like the topic of our next panel, how to build great teams. Carlos, will you come back for that one?
I mean, as much as you want to have me here, of course.
Of course.
You don't get rid of me now that you have me here. So yeah.
We love that. No, we love having all of you here. Okay, let's move on to the third question. How have you actively contributed to fostering diversity and inclusion in the tech industry and within your organization? So Roberto, can you start us off with this answer, please?
Yeah, of course. I'm a big believer, very honest, on this idea of community building, and most importantly, sending the elevator down. I think it's really important that once we get there, we really have to make room for all the other folks to come along with us. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And I have done that a few different ways, right? I guess one of them, and Andres already mentioned that he's a mentor at Technovation. I was a mentor of Technovation as well for quite some time. Also, Her Revolution here in Toronto. I joined ERGs at Shopify. I was actually a co-chair of the Latina ERG over there. What else? I think mentoring is really important. I mean, there's no better way for you to influence someone's ways of working, future in a way, than being the right mentor for the person. But as there's the other way of how you have to understand when you're not supposed to be a mentor anymore and hand it over to another person. So I think that's the challenge that comes with mentorship. But I really like being that, again, that community builder, the person who's going to be connecting others. I think that's one of the most important aspects on my career where I could contribute the most was within Google. And I was hired by Google Canada to launch the Google Career Certificates here in Canada. For those of you who don't know about it, it's curriculum that's put out by Google that is industry wide curriculum. It's not brand agnostic, so it kind of takes care of all aspects of the different certificates that they have. And the goal around the certificates is actually to help people reskill themselves into new roles in tech, because tech is always in need of those new individuals. And so the Google Career Certificates, in a way, connects you to the other. But what was different from what was being done in the US to what's being done in Canada is that in Canada, we launched it with a lens on social impact. So all the communications and all the partnerships that we did with Google Career Certificates here in Canada were with NGOs, providing scholarships with them, providing funding with them. And after that, building a funnel where those folks who are coming out of those courses would actually be connected with companies who are willing to hire from them. That was really important. The goal that we had back then, so this was 3 years ago already, but we understood that if we did our work properly, we could be moving representation in Canada 1% more. So that those who are those underrepresented Canadians would be 1% that more represented within the industry. And if you put that in numbers, when you take a look into the entire industry, like that's a huge number. And I cannot disclose whether we got there or not. But you can see that I'm smiling, so that might be giving you a hint. But that was like the work of a lifetime that was actually managed to develop in under just 2 years, which was amazing.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I especially love that send the elevator up. I love that, or down to come back up. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Carlos, same question.
That's a very good question. Again, when I came to Canada, I think that one of the things that were very useful for me was precisely to start identifying ERGs and groups of Latinos within different organizations. I remember that back in 2012, I saw a very powerful group with KPMG, another very powerful group with PwC, and something I loved from the two of them is that the two of them were open. They were not only reserved for their own people. So when I came back to EY in 2018, because I was with EY in Mexico from 1996 to 2012, then left the firm to move to Canada, was working for a couple of other companies. And then in 2018, I came back to EY and I found that there was no Latin network within the firm. And it caught my attention, so I suggested the creation of one. And the firm said, well, we didn't have one because no one had asked for one before. And I said, well, I am asking the question, let's go create one. And right now we have a network that has 8 different chapters across the country. In 2019, a year after we created the network, the firm suggested me to go to the States to attend a Latin American convention of an association that was focused on the Latin American community. And I said yes. I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and to my surprise, the conference I was attending was the Alpha Convention. Alpha stands for the Association of Latin Professionals for America. Have never heard of Alpha before, but I was really attracted by the vibe of the organization and by the value they were delivering to the community. They had activities for students, entrepreneurs, and professionals. It was amazing. Close to 4,000 Latin Americans just mingling around in Nashville, Tennessee, just embracing the city and making it its own. So at some point, I had a chance of going to one of the board members of Alpha in the States. And I said, hey, have you thought of doing something like this outside of the States? I'm from Canada, so I was wondering if there's an interest in doing something there. So long story short, they said, yes, we were looking for someone, but haven't found anyone. So I said, well, I can help with that. So we faced COVID after that, and the idea was put on pause for a while. But then in 2021, by the end of 2021, the CEO from Alpha called me again. And he said, Carlos, if you're still interested, we are interested as well. So let's go for that. And I said, yes, of course. So we assembled a team and we ended up creating the first non-US chapter for this organization with the idea of bringing to the Latin community in Canada the same benefits that exist in the United States. And of course, to do a Canadianization of that. We wanted to call the chapter Alpha Canada instead of Alpha Toronto because we didn't want to let people think that it was reserved only for people living in Toronto. And it worked. So other communities or other members of the Latin community across the country started to hear the call. So right now, something that excites me a lot is that a group of Latins in Montreal have already submitted the application to Alpha to create the second chapter in Canada, which will be Alpha Montreal. And we are already working with a third group in the West Coast in Calgary. Someone from the University of Alberta has already approached us to say, we want to replicate the same here. So the purpose of Alpha is to start identifying wonderful organizations like Latinas in Tech to see how is it that we can collaborate together, create a platform that can help us expand the presence of the Latin power across Canada. But in addition to that, to connect this community with the same community in the States. And at some point, we envision to have more chapters of Alpha all across the world. It's like Pinky and the Brain. So we started with Canada, but we will extend this as long as we can and as much as we can. So that's what I am trying to do when it comes to help embrace the community and help having the community connected to our organizations. I pushed for the creation of our own ERG within EY, and then I found a way to get disconnected to this external initiative that is helping us connect with other ERGs and with other associations as Latinas in Tech, which is amazing.
I love it. And I love the enthusiasm that like reverberates off of you. Thank you, Carlos. You know, one of the best lessons that I've learned in business and applied to life is the sun shines for everyone. And yes, we want to help you grow it. You help us grow and we can help, because in the end, these are communities where these are places, safe spaces for our communities to thrive and grow. So love it. Count on us. We're here for it. Okay. Moving on to our next question. This goes to you, Andres and Daniel. What advice do you have for others, especially those from underrepresented groups who are aspiring to build a successful career in tech?
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Nonverbal communication, I can read you. Okay, so I'm gonna harness again on education networking, and the reason is I'm a business case of one. It worked for me. I'm sure it can work for anyone else. There's a huge amount of power with knowing the right things and meeting the right people. So find mentors that understand your journey and sympathize with your challenges. I was very lucky early on in my career to meet two leaders that became my mentors. One of them, both immigrants, one of them a woman, the other one a person of color like me. And the takeaway is that they taught me to date. 10 years later, I still use. Just to share a little bit with you, one of them, she had a very tough approach to teaching, and this was early on my career. And you know, I'll share. There were a couple of times in which I thought this is going to be too complex. I don't want to be part of tech. I'm going to go do something else. But whatever she taught me ingrained on the core of what I do right now, and 100% to date, I still borrow from the cookbook that she shared with me, the framework that she shared with me. The other one, and I have to mention and share this one, is because on every Latinas in Tech speaking panel, I've always heard at least one person speak about the passion of the Latinos, and this is a real thing. The passion is a real thing, and I remember he mentioned to me. He mentioned, use that passion to drive you through the tough times. Harness that passion, but also use it with laser focused attention. So also be careful how you manage that passion. Be careful when you're having success, or how you manage that passion. And this is advice, and these are suggestions that I took very seriously coming from this person, just because I knew that he had gone through similar journeys as me. So he completely understood where I was coming from. And I think during that period of time that I was a sponge taking from these two mentors, is where I advanced my career the fastest. So, this is the people that most likely will be having those important conversations behind closed doors and advocating for your talent. So yeah, that those would be my two pieces of advice. So educate yourself on the field that you want to become a subject matter expert, and find those mentors that care personally about you.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Super
Thank you,
important.
Andres. Daniel.
Super important in this, having mentors that can guide you, and also sponsors, which are the people who talk about you when you're not in the room, and people who have the power to influence your career. I would say the first thing is to believe in yourself. So the first person who needs to believe in you is yourself. So you gotta do that. I see a lot of people that you tell them to go for something and are questioning themselves. Oh, I don't know. I'm missing 2 out of the 20 things that they're asking for. That's good. Like if you have 50% of what a job description is asking for, you're good for it. And the most important is connect with the hiring manager. But the most important thing is something that came as an experience. I was part of a networking group that was a Black people networking group. And a lot of people there, of course, have it more difficult, but also they were completely deflated. And everything they will bring was negative. It's like, oh, I never get anywhere. Like I will not have an opportunity. People see me as less. So everything was very, very negative. And my contribution with them was like, look, it is possible. And this is what happened. There is a bias. So, but the bias is 5% of the people, 10% of the people. You sometimes get into it. And yes, then there is another type of bias that, white people hold the power. And if we would hold the power, we typically will get more Latinos to work with us than white people, because we connect as humans, because it's our culture, etc. So that happens, and that's not evil. So, but what is truth is, if at the moment that somebody will able to give you an opportunity, you don't have the right attitude, you will not be having the opportunity. So I said, I am not a director now. And if I see you, I don't know if I will bring you in my team, because in my team, I want the best attitude. I want to have fun. I want people who is very positive. I want people who, come with the best positive attitude, want to do things, think that they're the best, think that this team is the best. So if you're going to come and you're going to be like, oh, I don't know, like, then I might not give you the opportunity. So the first thing is you gotta connect with yourself and say, I'm gonna have the best attitude. When people know me, people is gonna be like, I'm a happy person. I'm positive. I really want to drive. And the second thing is hold it. Because then sometimes people is like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And 3 weeks later, it's like, oh, nothing happened. I knew it. No, it's not gonna happen in 3 weeks. It may not happen in 2 months. It might happen in 1 year, in 2 years. But good things are gonna start to happen if you have the right attitude, and you also combine it with studying, reading, working hard. But you gotta hold that for a long period of time, and then things are gonna start happening. So have the best attitude and hold it for a long time.
That's amazing advice, Daniel, that we can all use and remind ourselves. One of the ways that to rebalance my energy, or if I'm frustrated, I lean into my ERG group at work, or I lean into my community, whether that's the Latinas in Tech Canada leadership group, but I have to lean into another individual that understands me. So I don't know if it happens to any of you at work, but if you join a new team or a new group or whatever, and you see that other person of color, you kind of get excited because you're like, okay, there's so much affinity here, and I know that I can maybe lean on this person a little bit more and be that emotional support. I always get a positive reaction when I reach out to the other person of color in the room. So thank you so much. That's a great reminder, Daniel. Okay, so we actually got an amazing question in the Q&A from Julian Urrego, and I'll open up to any of you from the panel. How are you using AI on your teams? Who would like to answer that?
Well, I can cheat. I mean, like, I'm the director of advanced analytics and AI. So basically, my career in the last several years has been using AI, enabling teams with AI. So until now, I have been building AI solutions for business problems. So that's typically what I've been doing, which is like if we need to target better our clients, we need to understand why our clients are doing something. I understand first the business problem, and then I find AI solutions that can bring that into a suitable answer for the business. However, lately, this year, starting with ChatGPT, the game is changing, and there is a lot of tools that come with AI. So lately, also my career has been shifting into reviewing the AI and understanding how we can use those tools. What are the tools that are the best? How those tools can represent a risk for the organization, for our clients, for our employees. Actually, my session in Montreal was about ChatGPT, and I encourage people to yes use ChatGPT, for example, but be careful on other things that have been in the past. For example, now we are less likely to read and learn new things because we have Google. We are less likely to be able to navigate because we have Google Maps. So, but with ChatGPT, you can answer pretty much everything. You can ask, and so then what I don't want is humans to lose the ability to think on new ideas, to contribute with conversations, etc. So it's like use it, but be mindful that you also keep using your brain and supervise what you're doing with the AI tool.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Daniel.
it's
Carlos, go
a
ahead.
compliment. Thank you. You just made me think. At EY, we are using, or we are involved in AI in different capacities. On the one hand, we have already started receiving requirements from our clients and questions to challenge how AI can be used to improve something on the business side. And we are consulting on that from the risk perspective, from the process improvement perspective, from different angles. But internally within the firm, as you said, Daniel, we are just playing with the tools that people that is specialized in AI is just offering, and we created our own AI tools. So now it's cool that in addition to the knowledge and experience we can have, we can turn our heads to our internal GPT, and we can ask questions, and we can get information that can be used for inspiring things that we are going to be saying to our clients, or that can create the foundations of what we will be building for our clients. And as you were saying, Daniel, it's just a matter of being, I will say, pushed by what these tools have to offer, reinforcing that with the knowledge and experience from teams. It's been pretty interesting. The other piece I want to share with you, among these amazing Latin-related associations, in Canada, we have one that is called Hispanotech. The website is Hispanotech.ca, and they just released 3 applications that are supported by artificial intelligence. So one of them is called the Job Seeker Advisor, which they are presented as a specialized GPT that can help you improve chances for finding and landing on the jobs you want. The other one is Canuck Prep, which is focused on helping people in Canada be prepared to take the citizenship exam. And the last one is called Improve Your Pitch. And the idea is to use a space where you can improve your elevator pitch in order to make it more effective when you go out to the market. So it is, as Daniel was saying, not only transforming the way, I will say, businesses are going, even associations, like in the case of Hispanotech, are finding a way to take advantage on the use of these tools.
Amazing. Carlos, if you could send those our way, we'll include it in the follow-up post.
Sure.
We got another amazing question from our audience. Roberto, Andres, get ready to answer. This is coming to us from Germán Martinez. Do you think that today it's more important to have a good contact network than just having a lot of professional experience, especially during a transition process? Roberto, start us off with this answer, please.
Oh, wow. I think it really depends on your level of seniority. I guess that I would start there. But if I am to pick between the two of them, I would say better connections will likely lead you to more opportunities. I mean, you have to, the better connections are going to be opening the doors. The better the experience is actually going to be keeping you at the job, right? So at the end of the day, it has to be a balance. To give an example about myself, and as Andrew says, like it's a business case of one. My first two positions here, I actually had to apply to them. So the events conference company that I mentioned and the first tech startup that I worked with. After that, at Shopify, I was actually sourced on LinkedIn. So in a way, kind of because of my connections and what I was putting out there. And then both the Google and the Rogers opportunities were not listed opportunities. They came to me because they wanted people just like me and because of the connections that I had within those companies. So if I am to say based on what I experienced myself, go for the connections first, like really build that strong network because they're going to be giving you the opportunity and opening the doors. And then, of course, if you're adequate to the opportunities that are being given, then you're going to be flourishing within them. That said, like that wouldn't work for if you're looking for a director or VP or whatever higher level position, because then you really need to have those skills to back you up. It's a slightly different. But if you're a kind of entry to mid-level professional, for sure, go for the connections.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with Roberto, and it's a shame because I don't have a lot more to add to that answer. I 100% believe that networking is the way to go. I'll give you an example, everything equal, you have 100 CVs, all of them incredibly skilled, incredibly experienced, incredibly educated. Chances are the person that knows the hiring manager or that inside contact will get the chance to at least showcase what they have to offer over the other 99 or 200 people. So networking is incredibly important. I think something that's worth repeating as well, and this is what Roberto saying it, your contact or the networking will open the opportunity, but your experience and expertise will keep it, right?
Yeah.
Roberto's point, not mine, but I thought it was brilliant.
Amazing. Thank you. We're getting a lot of questions, so we're just going to continue knocking these questions out from the audience. Thank you so much. Please keep the questions coming. This one's from Veronica, actually. How do you leverage your Latinidad to convince or persuade people to work with you? Anybody, this is up for grabs.
we are funny. That's what I would love to say. But something that I think many of us are doing right now is that, yes, we are funny, but we know our stuff as well. I mean, it is not that Latinos are only for fiesta and samba and tacos and all of that. Of course, we can do all of that and we can have a very good time, but it is not that only. We are great at what we do, and that's something that we need to say. And I think that for that as well, I will go back to the network concept that were just mentioned a second ago. Of course, we need to demonstrate that we have experience, that we have knowledge, but we need to take it out and we need to show to the world what we can do. And it is something that we need to do in order to not only position ourselves, but position the community as well. So I think that in demonstrating that we are able to have a very good fiesta and party very, very hard, but work very, very hard as well, I think it's a balance that we need to bring. And I think that in addition to that, just embracing this wonderful superpower that we have on being Latino is something that we need to do. One of the challenges I had when I came to the country was my accent and the insecurity I had on the language. And at some point in time, I remember a Colombian lady saying to me, Carlos, you need to bring the elephant in the room to the conversation. And I didn't know the elephant in the room expression. So she explained that to me. And that's what I did in the first presentation I delivered when I just moved to Toronto. I presented a slide with a very large elephant in a very tiny room. And I said, guys, just so you know, I was born and raised in Mexico. I know my stuff, but English was not my first language. So if for whatever reason, there's something I am explaining that is not clear for you, let me know. I will not get offended. I understand I have this lovely Latino accent. That will not change. But please let me know if for whatever reason it is not helping me be clear with you. And I think that with that, I have been more effective on delivering that. And of course, with time, I have found a way to say that more rapidly. And that's a message that I always deliver when I am presenting something to someone.
Daniel, would you like to add anything to that answer?
Yeah. So the first thing is that I cannot agree more. So in from building the solar car when I was in the university, one of our three major cultural things was we need to have fun, and I have perceived with that in my jobs. I when I have teams, I always say, it is very important to have fun. We spend a lot of hours in the office, and when you are a fun person, respectful, and and also you're empathic, which I think that the Latinos are. We have a very strong connection with feelings. We're not cold. We see the person and we read the person. We let people read us as well. And like once I remember a person saying like, oh well, for example, saying that Latinos are emotional, it is racist, and I'm like, no, 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 no. The racist thing is to think that being emotional is bad, but we are emotional, and that's a good thing. Like we are in contact with our emotions, and we're fun, and you make people want to work with you. So then you will be pulled into the projects, you will be pulled into other teams, you will convince people to move your projects ahead. So I think it's a strength, like being fun, being empathic, being it's a Latino strength, and we have to leverage it. Yes, and
If I
that's
if I may add one little thing, just to add here, because you're both, I love it. It's absolutely great. I'll tell you what, once I realized that my accent was a thing, that I would start a boardroom, I have 12 people looking at me like, like, what's that accent? I started using that accent because I knew people was listening, and therefore the strongest message would go at the beginning of my presentations. So just to let you know how you can use your Latino power.
Superpower. It's a superpower.
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%, 100%.
If I may add just a single point here to just try to wrap up with a nice ball is I really do think that we Latinos are doers as compared to some other cultures where we really get our sleeves kind of back them up and kind of really go to do things, while usually the others are defaulting for kind of trying to understand problems and not kind of moving forward as fast as we can. And I guess that comes from our backgrounds and kind of always needing to be doing things and not necessarily having that security network that some other folks would have. So people that are usually joining me on my projects really like that go-getter approach that I have. It's like, we have to make it happen. It doesn't matter if we don't have the resources, if we don't have the time. If we need to make it happen, we're going to make it happen. We'll find them. So I think that's one thing that differentiates us as well, because we're problem solvers and go-getters from the heart on.
I do want to caution, though, that we can't put all Latinos in the same box, that we're all funny, we're all passionate, we're all spicy, because at the end of the day, we're not. I personally dislike that Latina women are seen as spicy and like provocative or whatever. Like, no, we are not all that. So yes, maybe that could be true for many, but one of the things that I do set out to teach my allies is to be careful with the language they use in describing and setting up those expectations.
Yeah.
But okay, so Melissa, you asked a really good question, but I'm not quite sure I understand which process you're speaking about. So this is from Melissa Alexis. Aside from increasing educational opportunities, how can we get more Latinos, Latinas involved in the entire process, development, implementation, and governance? Those that are creating AI are essentially creating the future.
okay. I think I can take that. So in that sense, it would not be to train, because I think that you're talking about when hiring processes, or when processes in general now more and more are dominated by AI. So for sure, we cannot coach something to say, well, if Latino could, right? But what is more and more important in our environment is to eliminate biases. So we talk about AI ethics, which have like we have to eliminate biases. We need to be fair. There has to be accountability. Also, I would say that with generative AI, it is important always to use it for augmentation and not automation. So it's like to help the humans, but not to remove the humans out of the equation. When you build the model, it learns from what it was there in the past. And you're right, because in the past maybe certain races or certain gender or certain type of people were going to the top. If you just train the model, then those people will keep going because will be identified as a more suitable candidate. So you need to eliminate all characteristics that can identify the race of the person, for example, which is not as easy as say, I'm not going to include if he's Latino or white, because maybe just the name, or maybe just the place where you live. If you live, in the Quartier Latin in Montreal, maybe you're Latino, or you live in Chinatown, you might be a Chinese. So it is more difficult than it sounds, but people have to put the effort to eliminate biases, and then help do a more diverse future in the high roles.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have one more question that we planned for, and then we'll move over to wrapping it up. So, and this goes to all four of you. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or any final words of inspiration for those listening today? So we'll just do a round table. We'll kick it off with you, Roberto, if you can answer, and then we'll go around the table.
Yeah, I think that for me, the big thing would be embracing your Latinidad. It's again, putting that as your strength, as your point of view that is very different from what others bring to the table, because this is what really going to be distinguishing you, whether it's job searching, whether doing a job, whether bringing extra context to the table, right? Sometimes we need that different perspective. When I work in advertising, for instance, I had a Venezuelan friend, my friend called Mario. He's now in Germany. And the one thing he told me, the story around that was like, we were building this campaign, and someone at the table mentioned like, oh, why don't we build around that feeling when you go back to your cottage after winter and you open the cottage for the first time, and the experience around that. And Mario quickly raised his hand and was like, what's the experience around that? What happens when you reopen your cottage after winter? As a Venezuelan, he didn't know that. So that only that small specific question allowed them to really detangle what the emotions were, the colors, the scents, the sentiments around that, and allow them to really build a campaign around it. And it was like a very honest question that came from someone that didn't have that background, but really embraced it. So I guess that my parting thought would be that one, like really embracing your Latinidad as your strength, because it is. If you think differently, change your mindset, because it is.
Yeah, I'll go ahead really quick. So when it comes down to allyship, volunteer your time. I think a couple of times it's been said, send the elevator down. There are wonderful nonprofit organizations that need mentors, need people volunteer. Like I said, I volunteer for Technovation. I hold it dear to my heart. It's a STEM nonprofit that focuses on girls finding real solutions for real problems in engineering and coding. They also engage in artificial intelligence, which is absolutely wonderful. It's mind-blowing to see a 10-year-old doing artificial intelligence. It makes you question what you're doing with your life. It's unbelievable. It's great. Hispanotech, love Hispanotech. And if I remember well, their motto, change someone's life in 3 months. And it's true. I've seen it from start to finish. It's absolutely wonderful. So, show your support for inclusive and diverse environments, and identify those that want to do the same, so that you magnify that effort, right? Is the power of community. It's the power of all of us getting together and doing it together, amplifying that voice that may not be heard. And I feel that to a degree, as Latinos or Latinas, we have that responsibility in leadership to do that. Carlos, Daniel?
Yeah, when I migrated to Canada, I moved, of course, from Mexico to Canada. But with time, I have started to think, and that's a piece of advice that I want to give to everyone that has moved from Latin America to North America, that instead of thinking of this as a move, now I am thinking of expanding my area of influence. So I don't want to be disconnected from Latin America. I don't want to be just in North America. I want to be an element of connection between the two of these. And just replicating what you have already said, I think that there's many wonderful organizations that are doing many things on these, and that's what connected me to Alpha. But I am convinced that Alpha is not the only one. Alpha is just one more that can add more flavor and more value to an entire ecosystem of Latin American organizations that are out there being successful and doing their own stuff. And as I said before, I am insanely excited on having found Latinas in Tech. very, very proud of the things you have done and the reach you have. And please, please, please don't expect to get rid of me, because you won't. So my intention is to do more as cyber professional, privacy professional, as alpha member, as EY executive, to support Latinas in Tech and other organizations that I think are wonderful. So if all of you that not doing this yet can volunteer for one of these many organizations that always need help to help others and to send the elevator down for others, don't hesitate on doing that. There's many. So identify what they do, the purpose they have, and identify the one that just fits what you want to do to volunteer for them. We all need people. And yes, I live in Toronto. Veronica is saying that she knows where I live. She does. Yeah.
Okay. So for me is on embrace your Latino side. It's true. I think that Latinos, as a difference from many other regions, cultures, etc., we're a mix of everything. So in a way, we connect super well with a lot of different ethnicities, with Africans, with Arabs, with Mediterraneans. So we can use that. But something very important for us in terms of how we help each other. I think that besides, the obvious of giving your hand or sending the elevator down, is also like you have your flag and you are the best representation of our community. So always work really hard and do your best to represent your community in the best way. And that will open the door to others, even, if you're not there to open the door, but the people who saw you will see that and it would say, Latinos are honest, Latinos are good, Latinos are hard work. And I think that happens a lot. And in Canada, a lot, because the level of the Latinos who come to Canada is it's really, really impressive. So it's like the best of Latin America goes to sometimes elsewhere, because the reality of our countries is difficult, right? So like keep doing that, keep working hard, keep being nice to people, and representing your flag, which is your country and your community, and good things will keep happening with other Latinos.
I love that so much, Daniel. Thank you so much. So we got two other amazing questions through the panel, through the chats, but it indicated to me that we have identified a second topic for another follow-up. It's all about AI. So I've taken a screenshot. We're going to do a whole panel to talk about AI governance and government intervention, etc. But for now, we do need to close up, because I know, Carlos, you have to jump off as well. So before we do jump off, we have a very special treat for you today. In the spirit of promoting Latinx-owned businesses, today we're thrilled to introduce you to Maria Tuca Jewelry, founded by a Latina in Toronto. Their online store, mariatuca.com, creates bracelets crafted in small batches, featuring ethically sourced gemstones and sterling silver. And to celebrate their launch, Maria Tuca is giving away one bracelet to one of the attendees. We will do the draw later, not right now. We will do it through social media. So thank you so much for this generosity. And additionally, Maria Tuca is extending a special 15% one-time discount today for the attendees. You simply have to use the code Latina during checkout. So thank you. This is incredibly generous. Again, we love to support Latin-owned businesses. This is incredibly generous. So I want to take a moment to say thank you so much to this incredible panel. We've walked away with so many learnings. You've reminded us really what it's like to own our Latinidad, to embrace it, to share it, and so much more. So thank you again. Thank you to the attendees for taking the time to join us. And keep an eye out on the follow-up post. We'll share some of the learnings. We're going to share some of the links that were discussed today. And apparently we have to do a follow-up session, how to create great teams and governance around Gen AI. So yeah, thank you again. Have a beautiful Tuesday evening and rest of the week.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you,
so much,
Latinas InTech.
Thank
This was
you.
amazing. What a pleasure.
Obrigado.
Muchas gracias, obrigado.
Es una
Take care,
brincadeira.
gracias.
Un placer, Roberto, Daniel y Carlos. Gracias,
Sí,
Diana.
un
Hasta
abrazo,
luego.
También,
gracias.
también. Muchas
Bye.
gracias.
Bye a
Bye.
todos.
Bye.